Hello, my name's Karen Thames of the Business Network in Central and East Lancashire, proud sponsor of Business Bites with business leaders in conjunction with Lisa Edge of Lancashire and GBTV. I'm delighted to say that today we're chatting with Bernadette Willems of Business Peacemaker. And when I first met Bernadette, my first question was Business Peacemaker. What a fantastic company name. How did that evolve?
It's quite interesting because I started really sort of my professional career as a solicitor. I was a litigation solicitor, so dispute resolution as it's now called. And so I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed helping people resolve their disputes, whether it was a debt dispute, whether it was personal injury, medical negligence. It was very much a whole gamut of things. It's become very much more specialized now. But what I found was that, I was having to go to court in far away places, and I never really knew where my diary was until very sort of about 2 weeks in advance. And when my family came along, this was quite difficult to manage childcare because we didn't have sort of regular dates of when things would be, certain cases would be appearing. Things have got a lot better now, but at that time I thought, what can I do? Because I had my children in very quick succession, so I wanted to be around for them. And so I thought, right, okay, I need to find some sort of role where I can act as a consultant. And it was just when mediation was starting or was being introduced into the UK from America. And I thought, oh, sounds quite interesting, because it was very much in line with the sort of ways that I would approach my cases, because I would try and sort of settle them and have negotiations with the other side and, sort of try and reach an agreement without having to go to court. So I thought, I'll go and investigate this. And this was brilliant. So in fact, I trained as a mediator, and I was the first lawyer mediator in the northwest of England. And so much to the astonishment of my colleagues, I think, because they thought, why do you want to sort of go into this sort of very different approach of dealing with disputes? Anyway, I trained as a family mediator. And because, if you like, I was at the forefront of the profession, I was being approached then by workplace mediation, or to deal with workplace mediations. And so that really sort of evolved into itself and into a sort of separate part of my business. And as I sort of have developed my career and my research and my sort of interest in the thing, I thought, actually, I am a business peacemaker, because what I can do is I can actually help the managers and the business owners understand how they can actually manage their own personnel in a way that's going to create harmony. And so I sort of was bringing in all sorts of different resources to help them to do that. And so, yes, so that's why I sort of trade as your business peacemaker.
What were the biggest challenges from leaving your established legal practice and going into business by yourself?
I think the biggest challenge really was that it was a brand new profession. So I was starting from zero. I was the only mediator in in my area, in the Greater Manchester area at the time, and basically it was a real challenge, because I didn't really know how it would evolve. I was very passionate about the idea, but I was having to find my customers and my clients on my own, and I was having to try and introduce them to this new philosophy and this new way of working, which from their perspective, they thought, well, hang on a bit, if I'm getting divorced or I'm separating, I go and see a solicitor. Why would I want to come and see you? And so because I was in my own legal practice, I was able to say, well, look, this is what I'm offering. And if you don't want to do that, then I can refer you to my colleague who would deal with your divorce. And I suppose that's how my business grew effectively, because not only that, I would get one party coming to see me, so one part of the couple, and then they would have to say, oh, I need to talk to my ex, I need to talk to my partner to see whether they'd be interested. So the challenge as well was that I wasn't having to just deal with one client that I could convert straight away. I was having to sort of satisfy two people that they would be happy to talk with and deal with me.
So your natural communication skills developed as a result of that, and then you noticed how people started to behave in certain situations, and how did that lead you to develop your skills?
Well, essentially what I found, because I was dealing with two people at once in the same room, so I would have sometimes some very hostile couples coming to see me and sometimes some very amicable couples. And what I was finding is that people sometimes were communicating in a way which was really unhelpful to them actually finding a solution. Because I remember I had one particular incident where I had a very aggressive and hostile couple, and this was very much in my early days, and I was thinking, how am I going to deal with this? Because the female had actually got up and was standing over her partner and pointing a finger and really sort of sounding off and venting. And I thought, actually, they're agreeing, but they're just not listening to each other. And so I was writing what they were agreeing and what was being said on the flip chart. And because I'd stood up and then I sat down, it sort of changed the dynamics in the room, and they sort of looked at me and thinking, what's she doing? And then I said, well, there's your agreement. And they laughed then. And, because of course they'd just been so at each other's throats in the sense of the way that they were being very, very rude and very aggressive and confrontational. But actually, it was just that their communication they got into a pattern of talking to each other in that way, which just didn't help the solution.
And we see that in everyday life, don't we?
Yeah.
So how does your business now help people? What's your main focus now?
Well, my main focus now is really about helping people understand themselves better and really be the best version of themselves. And so whether that's in a workplace environment, whether it's in a mediation environment, in separation, or even just somebody who is wanting to improve their life, because I think everybody wants to be a better version of themselves. We're always wanting to improve some aspect of our lives, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's in our health, whether it's in our business, or whether it's in just our lifestyle, our work-life balance. But often what we have to do is we have to be reminded of some of those very basic skills. I mean, this morning I was talking with my coach, and, it's just sort of articulating some things made me think, actually, I'm not doing that at the moment. I should be doing that. So we even as somebody who is helping other people, I have to remind myself of things that I have to do to improve and make myself a better version of myself. So it's a constant learning, and that's the beauty of it, and that's the interesting thing, because we are evolving as individuals anyway. So we're growing in our awareness, really, our ability to actually sort of take on board different challenges, different sort of perceptions and things. And the more we're able to do that, the easier, I think, or the wider our horizon can be, in the sense that there's then so many opportunities that we could actually sort of say, well, actually, yes, that's something that I could do. Whereas before, if you don't allow yourself to grow, you're always going to be in that little bubble, and it's almost like having a paper bag over your head. You're not going to really see the opportunities that are sometimes just right in front of your nose.
It's really interesting to know that as a coach and as a mediator and as a solicitor, that you still have a coach. Do you have a coach on an ongoing basis, or is it engaged for periods of time? How do you know that you're ready for your own top-up, if you like?
I would say that I have a regular ongoing situation where it's really about how your work is evolving. It's almost like a supervisory role in some ways, where it's just you're checking in, and it's also about accountability. I think you know, you might sort of have said something that you were going to do, and then, you know, it's good to have a coach to say, well, how's it going? Have you done it? And if not, why not? And why do you think you haven't done it? And asking questions really which are helping the individual, and help me sort of find the resources I have inside myself to actually achieve the things that I want to achieve.
Yeah.
And it's what I try and do with my clients.
Mm-hmm. Am I right in thinking that there are two distinct areas of your business? One is the mediation, and one is the personal coaching coaching on a one-to-one basis. Is that right?
Yes, that is right. What I am finding though is that within the mediation, there's actually a coaching element that gets introduced into it into a very discreet way. And that is, I think, why I have so much success with the mediation, because the clients are able then to resolve things themselves, because they actually gain that awareness about their own behavior and about what they're doing, which is going to help them negotiate and agree things in a much more satisfactory way, really, than locking horns and going to court.
It's such a huge area. Is there any sort of one facet of how we think, how we behave? Is there one area that you enjoy exploring more than any other?
I think what I love to do is to help people achieve what they really want, and help them to uncover what it is that they want, because we all have these aspirations, but we also all have this social conditioning which tells us that we should be doing something, or we feel that we should be doing what we've been told we should be doing, when in fact, you know, we all have our own individual purpose in life. And it's really interesting because I mean, I've spoken, you know, with very many different types of professions, and a lot of the time people will feel that they don't feel fulfilled in what they're doing. And when we sort of delve into it, it's because they've been told they should be doing that, rather than it's a choice that they've made. And so at that point, it's a question of, okay, you know, if you're good at what you're doing because you've got this great learned competence about it, that's great. But actually, there might be things that you could delegate to somebody else, which would make you enjoy what you're doing even more. Or you might be sort of going along a certain avenue in that field that you've gone into, which would develop your own talents a lot more. Because I'm a great believer that we all have incredible talents, but sometimes they're not unearthed properly. And if you can identify what your natural talent is, then life is going to be easy, and you're going to be doing things that you enjoy. And so it's not going to feel like work. And, you know, my view is that that's really what life is about. Life is not meant to be lived for working. You work to live. And if you can make that balance right, then everything falls into place effectively.
Do you think that those natural talents can be buried so deep that it can take somebody a long time to almost unearth what it is, what their purpose is?
It can be, and it largely depends on the social conditioning that they've had in their environment, the teachers that they've had around them. Because what tends to happen is that we all have certain beliefs about things. And if we have these beliefs which are actually limiting us moving forward, then unraveling those can be quite sort of unsettling. And unless you've got a real sense of why you want to do it, then you're having to sort of review how you're looking at the world and looking at it from a different lens. And that can be very challenging if you've never done that before. But sometimes it can be really enlightening, because you suddenly think, oh, wow, you know, I never thought that could be so easy. And that's wonderful when I see that happening with a client, where, you know, they have an aha moment because of something that I've said or a question that I've asked, which has really got them to think in a different way.
Yeah. How has your business changed over the past 3 months with the current pandemic situation? have you found yourself doing your own resources and adapting your business?
It's been very interesting because mediation by its very nature is meant to be a face-to-face sort of skill that you do in, you know, if I'm doing workplace or family mediation, it doesn't matter, but it's usually there are two protagonists, for want of a better phrase, and me in the same room, and we're having to sort out what's going to be the outcome. So having it face to face has always been the methodology that I was trained in. And you know, as a coach, as an individual, I've always been very sensitive to the unspoken words, to the unspoken sort of information that you get from the atmosphere that's in that room, from the way that the parties are sort of relating to each other, how whether they're looking at each other, whether they are referring to them as Mr. So-and-so, even though they are their spouse or their partner. So all of these little things are very sort of helpful to me as the mediator. So when COVID arrived and lockdown arrived, all that stopped. And so it was, well, I can't mediate anymore. What am I going to do? And so I thought, well, actually, you know, Zoom has become such an everyday occurrence now. I thought, well, let's see if that can work. And in fact, it works incredibly well, because it does mean that people are not having to travel to my location. The situation is sometimes if they feel very nervous about being in the same room, they're no longer in the same room. So there's all those sort of things which have made the whole situation doable and adaptable. And the clients seem to be, and you know, enjoying it is perhaps the wrong word, but they seem to be embracing the change in a way that is working for them. And it does mean that they're able to then make some solutions, because the initial fear that clients had in the first few weeks was that, well, you know, how am I going to manage, you know, how long is this going to go on, and when are we ever going to get this sorted out? Either they were still under the same roof, so that was challenging in itself, or they had just separated, and so they hadn't sorted out the money. How were they going to manage who was going to be paying the mortgage, support, and all that sort of thing? So those things were very challenging. The workplace side of things has basically died out because of furlough, and people, I think, have had their sort of their focus on different things. But the coaching is something that I've often done, you know, by Zoom or face to face or on the telephone. So that hasn't been affected in any way at all. So yeah, I've been very lucky in many ways.
It's really interesting to know that you can still pick up cues on a Zoom platform in the same ways that you can pick up on the unspoken word and the gestures and, you know, non-verbal body language in a room as well.
What you probably know and understand unconsciously is that when you're on the telephone with somebody and you're not even seeing them, you can hear, you know, suddenly things will go silent, or you'll get a sense that there's a reaction at the other end that is not quite what you expected. And so we are very intuitive creatures, and you know, it's one of those intellectual faculties that we have which can be really sort of honed in to give us an incredible insight into how people are as individuals. You know, we have like a 3-second decision as to whether we can you know, engage with somebody or not because of how they look facially. You know, there's that initial sort of, whether it's chemistry or energy or whatever you want to call it, there is that communication which happens instantaneously. And so it works with your clients, because ultimately you have to engage with your client. You have to be able to sort of make that connection, and then that's what makes it work.
It's fascinating to hear that, and actually we are all a lot more we're more inquisitive than we give ourselves what's the word I'm looking for?
Credit for, really.
Credit for. But also, I think that we're all a lot more gifted. We just need to focus more and employ active listening skills just to take in, you know, the full picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I could hear about your business and the examples of how you help people all day. But if somebody was starting out in business now, regardless of the nature of the business, what tips would you be happy to give?
Well, my first thing would be, is it what they really want? What is it that they really, really want and would love to do? Because if they would love to do that, then they will go through whatever obstacles are necessary to actually achieve it. And, you know, in some ways, this is what happened to me, because when I decided I wanted to sort of be with my children, I had to find something that was going to work for me. And so, you know, so I thought, right, you know, I was going to do it. And I started from scratch, and I developed into one of the bigger mediation services in the country. So, you know, it's been really an interesting thing. And I would say to everybody, if you really want it and you know what you would love to do, just go for it. Go for it.
As you did. As you said earlier, you had to almost educate your clients to the fact that they may need you in the first place, because mediation was so new. Yes. So yes, you don't need to set out your stall for business, do you? You can just go with your heart, and
absolutely,
your business will evolve.
Yeah. No, it is. It's about following your heart, following your gut instinct or your intuition. And usually that is right. You know, I think we all have a sense of whether something is right or wrong. And if we listen to that, then, you know, we all have the resources inside of us. We all know what needs to be done. And it's a question of choosing to listen to it and not be deflected by social media, by, you know, what other people might think, or how you might be perceived by somebody else, or what is expected of you. It's, you know, you almost have to be selfish to be able to serve others in the best way you can.
Perfect. Bernadette, if people need to find out more about how you can help people, both in mediation and in coaching, where do we find you?
Well, I have a website, which is www.greatermanchestermediation.com, but I work in the northwest of England. In fact, I work nationally, so it's not really a problem. I was dealing with somebody from Essex only yesterday, so everybody finds me either via Google, or you can reach me on my mobile, which is 07740 438341, or on LinkedIn, Bernadette Willems, Business Peacemaker. Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure to have the opportunity to find out more about your business this afternoon, and thank you for sharing it with the listeners of Lancashire. And just leaves me to say, from Business Peacemaker, I'm going to say that again, just leaves me to say, from Business Peacemaker to Bernadette Willems, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Karen.